Today, we got a great question we're going to answer about investment properties. We got a scenario with someone trying to purchase an investment property, but how do they come up with the payment for the down payment? Where does that money come from? There's a few different options, and we're going to discuss those next, right here. This is the Smart Mortgage Show. I'm Ben George. He is Bill Litton. He is regional president at Cross Country Mortgage in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania. And we got a good show, Bill. I got a question for you, a little scenario we get to work through today. And I know it's got a little math involved, so you'll probably be happy.
I hope I have an answer for you, Ben.
You always have answers for us, Bill. We always appreciate that.
Yeah, go easy on me if you would.
Okay. Well, this question came in. I want to kind of work through it here. I think it's a similar scenario that other people might find themselves in if they are looking to buy investment property. Always trying to figure out how to pay for the down payment is a big part of that process. And if you are in this situation and want to sit down and look at your options, firsthand and be able to go through the details of your situation, again, Cross Country Mortgage, you can call Bill 484-352-4151. All right. Let me present the question to you today, Bill, and we'll kind of work through it here. So I'm trying to buy my first investment property. It's $145,000 for the property, but I'm having a hard time coming up with the 20% down payment. Does PMI exist for such a thing? That's the first question we're going to ask. And then what loan options do I have to make up the $29,000 for the down payment? I would prefer not to have to sell my stocks this year to make it all work. So let's kind of work through that. Let's start with the PMI. Is there a PMI in this situation?
Technically, the minimum amount that you can put down is 15%. So you don't have to put 20% down.
For an investment property?
For an investment property, yeah. The disadvantage to that is the rate is going to be higher and you're going to have to pay PMI, and the PMI is not friendly on an investment property. So now, what it always comes down to, Ben, is what do the rents look like? What does the potential appreciation on the property look like versus what are the payments? So if even with the higher rate in the PMI, even if you had a situation where the rate's high, you've got PMI and the payment's not ideal, but the rents still cover it and then some, it might be acceptable, especially if the property's in a good area and you're expecting appreciation. And just know every payment you make, you're whittling away the principal balance as well, and the value of the property is going up. So not the end of the world if you want to do 15% down. Now, I think that there's two other caveats that make it a little more difficult on investment properties, period. One is the max seller assist, the maximum amount the seller can help with is 2% of the purchase price.
Okay.
So you're very limited as to how much a seller can give. The other issue is there are no gifts allowed. So you can't get a gift from a family member.
Really?
To help. Yeah. Not on an investment property.
Even for a down payment?
Nope.
Wow.
No, sir. No, sir. Now, outside of that, right, if you couple of other thoughts, a couple of other things that we see people do a lot. So to your point, like we've got these stocks and, the market's been a little rough and we don't want to sell the stocks when they're down because we lose money there. How do we avoid that? Like what other sources? So one thing you can do is you could do an equity line against if you have a house already, you can use an equity line. We see that a lot. We pull equity out of our home to use for the down money and the closing costs on the new investment property. Or, an equity line on a house is just an equity line against collateral, and the collateral is the home. You can also do an equity line against your stocks, right? So your stocks are the collateral. You do an equity line or a margin loan against your investments. We advise our customers to do that a lot, so it allows them to not invade the accounts and realize losses and taxes and penalties depending on the type of the account. This way we just borrow against it. So that's another really good way that you can find monies for down money and closing costs without liquidating those stocks.
Which of those two are more common typically?
Much more common I see is an equity loan against your residence.
Okay.
Okay. And One of the reasons is you can take an equity loan on your primary residence up to 100% of the value. Margin loans, equity loans on stock accounts, because they're much more volatile in value than real estate, is maxed at 50% of the value. So you have less lending opportunity or borrowing opportunity on the investment account.
Okay. Well, I learned something new. I wasn't even aware of that lending option. Is that a product that's offered most places?
Yeah, if you have your investments with a good financial advisor, and they're, if you're with some of the bigger ones, the Merrill Lynch's, the Charles Schwab's, the Ameriprise, they're going to have those options for you.
Okay.
They're going to have that available.
Okay. So a couple different ways to get to that amount. And that definitely is a good topic, because I've learned a couple things here, the gifting, and then also that option there. When you talk about the rates, I guess, first of all, you have to put down the minimum 15% in this situation, but you said there's a big difference between 15 and 20%.
Yeah. So interest rate and closing cost wise, you're probably 0.5% higher in rate, and you might pay an extra point in fees. So if your loan amount was, say, just to be, make it easy, $100,000, rate's going to be 0.5% higher. And then the fees of 1% or 1 point is going to be $1,000 more in closing costs. So not the end of the world on 100,000, but maybe if your loan amount's 500,000, now that 1 point equals $5,000 more in fees.
Interesting. So anyone that's in this position, Bill, that is looking and considering an investment property, and I know it's a very popular way to try to build your net worth. What's the process? I know you help obviously with running some of these numbers, but I guess you would take it through the scenario of looking at the rent versus what it's going to cost for the loan, for the down payment, all these different things, right? You can kind of help calculate all that for someone.
Yeah. So just reach out. We would take you through our process. The first step is just asking questions. We want to learn more about your goals. And then from that conversation, we can typically tell if we can help or not. And then we take the next step, which would be to provide us with some information. And then we can, once we've reviewed everything, the third step in our process, which is most important, is whatever we come up with, whatever products, rates, terms, we put it all in writing. We send that to you in the form of a loan estimate, and then we go over it with you in detail, show you where every dollar is going, and make sure everything makes sense to you before you make offers and commit to, being under contract on a house. We want you to make sure you're always informed.
Again, 484-352-4151. Also log on smartmortgageshow.com. I'll finish out with this, Bill, and you can just kind of give me your personal advice. For someone that's looking to get into investment property, do you suggest, typically, just generally speaking, hey, it's best to have that down payment all kind of buttoned up, or is it okay to take out a loan against your home or against your equities and if the math works out?
I think it all depends on the opportunity. If borrowing money and taking that payment on the money you borrowed into consideration, if you're way upside down and it's not fitting in your budget, then it's a bad idea. But I've seen people buy, for instance, a 4-unit property that cash flows. It's a cash cow. And you add up the mortgage you're going to put on the 4-unit plus the financing that you're using on your current house or against your investments. You add it up all together and it still cash flows really well. It's a great opportunity. You're just leveraging other assets that you have to make that purchase happen. That's all part of what we need to do to go over the scenario and bring it into focus to see, does it make sense for you or not?
All right, very good. So even if you don't have that 20% in this scenario, this question that came up, and thanks again for this question, don't get discouraged. There are some options out there for you. And again, that's where a mortgage lender with a lot of experience comes in. It can help you work through that as well. But thanks for that question. If you have one for us, you can either leave a comment or get in touch by going to smartmortgageshow.com. Also, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support there as well. Bill, anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, but I just if you have questions, reach out. We are always happy to hear from you, and we're going to provide you with really good quality information so you can make good quality decisions.
This program is for informational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action. Bill Litton is a loan advisor and regional president with Cross Country Mortgage, NMLS number 147060.